I'm Matt Siegel from the Morehead State Athletic Department, and joining us now is Jim Wells. Jim is a former MSU Athletics employee and a longtime supporter of Eagle Athletics, and we're here at the MSU Athletics Golf Outing at Eagle Trace. And Jim, want to thank you for joining us. Let's first talk a little bit about your involvement with the athletic program at Morehead State. I know it goes back many, many years to when you were a fan growing up in Morehead.
Well, that's true, Matt. A lot of people don't realize that we're in our third basketball arena. While in my lifetime, I went to my first game in Button Gym, which is the drill room at Button Auditorium now. And of course, Weatherby was built in the 50s. I was just a little kid, but I can remember going to games in both facilities, and now the new one. And this is my second football stadium. So I've been around a long time as a little kid, little rug rat, watching the Eagles play. And of course, as a person like that, the Eagles, the people who wore blue and gold were kings in my eyes, and they still are.
Tell us a little more about the full-time positions you held in Morehead State Athletics. I know that your career with MSU Athletics spanned many years. I know you were involved in sports information, compliance. You were even a coach. So tell us more about that.
Well, that's true. I started as a sports information director, and I stayed in that position for about 7 years. And I guess the highlight of that was I was the sports information director that got the call from New York City when Phil Simms was drafted in the first round. You talk about shaking up the tree or kicking the hornet's nest. That surely did. You can imagine getting a call, well, totally unexpected. And then after that, I worked as compliance. As you say, I moved into the compliance area, and I was a compliance director for 15 years. And it's a big difference. Compliance is more NCAA rules, and I did. At 1 year, I was a part-time. Of course, at that time, the Olympic sports like softball were part-time coaches, and I was assistant coach 1 year and a head coach the next. And my 1 year at coaching was 32-19. Of course, I had great players. I give them all the credit, and that was the record for a long time until Holly Bruder's team, her first year, broke that record.
You've been through, with this athletic department through thick and thin, and you've seen a lot of really good stuff and maybe some lean years in terms of success. But how rewarding is it, or how exciting is it for you to see a Phil Simms go off and play 15 years in the NFL, or see a Kenneth Fareed, who I'm sure that you saw all of his home games at Morehead State, or a Josh Teeter doing his thing on the PGA Tour? I'm sure that has a special meaning for you.
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, the kids and the people you knew in college, you want to see them do well. I think the most fun I ever had watching the Super Bowl was Phil's MVP. Against the Denver Broncos. It was just unbelievable. I was in Florida, and I had actually set my VCR to record that, and it did. So I've still got it somewhere. And it was a great time. Phil was a great person. People don't realize how nice a guy he was to deal with. And as his SID, I had to ask a lot of questions that last year because, trust me, when we got the call that he was a first-round draft choice, we started printing up 8x10 glossies of his mug shot. I must have got 15 to 20 calls from New York, frantic calls from New York, because they didn't know who he was either.
Sure.
So it was a fun time, and again, I've enjoyed every bit of it as far as being associated with MSU Athletics, because to me it's just been my life, and that's what it's been.
You're also on the 8-person, I believe, Athletic Hall of Fame committee that has annual meetings and helps select some of the people to honor the past and the history of MSU Athletics. Talk about that role and how exciting and it is to be on that committee.
Well, it's very exciting because what you're trying to do is evaluate what people have done over a career as athletes at MSU, and sometimes guys go into the pros and have a better career than they did in college, but that's more for the Alumni Hall of Fame, because we're looking at their achievements at Morehead State University. And we've got a very representative committee now. I mean, and it's a very representative field in the actual Hall of Fame. Very proud to be a part of that. I guess the reason they put me on is I have been around so long. I've been around since the 50s, and I've watched a lot of those players play. And we're getting into an area now where I'm in my 60s, and I'm an old timer, and those guys are old timers too. It's not like it was when I was trying to watch people that I'd just heard about as a kid.
Jim Wells is with us today on MSUEagles.com, and Jim, you're very active in the sport of golf. I know this is an exciting annual event for you to attend. Tell the viewers out there, you've been with us the last 2 years. Morehead State has been the host of the OVC Golf Championships. 2 years ago was the women. This past spring it was the men. You've been the starter and helped with tournament operations. Just expand on that if you would.
Well, in 1998, they held the State Am out here at Eagle Trace, one of its first years of operation, and I got interested in the rules of golf. And actually progressed, and I've been to several rule seminars, and I'm one of the main officials. I like to think main officials. I don't know how many he's got, but for Bill Coomer, our director of operations in the state. And I've worked a USGA national tournament in my life, and could probably qualify to be a rules official at the OVC, except I don't want to do that because I feel like I'm too close to Morehead State. Any ruling you could make, people could say, did you make it because you're helping Morehead or hurting somebody else? And I don't think I would worry about that till after the fact, because I would have to ask myself, what did I make that ruling for? Was it right or was it not? But as a starter and scorekeeper, I'm just there to help and make sure there's no accidents in the scoring tent, which would cause a disqualification. But yeah, the rules of golf have become a very important part of my life. I'm right now the secretary treasurer of the Kentucky Golf Association, and I laughingly tell people if I live another 4 years, I'll be the president of the organization. But I've got to get through those 4 years first.
Well, that's great. And you work a lot of tournaments, do you not, in the spring and the summer on the amateur level, high school level?
Right. I was telling some people, I actually drove to officiate in April, drove almost 1,000 miles and almost another 1,000 in May. And it's been an early start. Usually my big start is June and July. That's when most of the junior tournaments, and I think my next big tournament is the State Amateur Championship down at Bowling Green Country Club, a 3-day event. I'll probably be the starter on one tee and then a rules official. I just enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. You know, again, you want to be a golfer and you don't want to compete at a high level, but I'm not a great player, but I can officiate at the high level. So I get to be a part of a big time tournament as an official, which is fun.
You played in the first flight this morning here at Eagle Trace. Who was in your group, and what did you shoot?
I had Wes Martin, a former golfer, Skip Welch, another former golfer, and Brad Martin, Wes's son. And we didn't make any putts today. We couldn't find the bottom of the cup. We shot 17 under, and we feel like with the way the field that was out there this morning, that would, if as you know, as a sports information director in the agate, we would be listed as also competed. I don't think we're in the hunt, but we had a great time. The weather was great. You know, I mean, they've got some threatening skies now for the afternoon, but the morning was perfect.
Jim, always a pleasure to catch up with you, and we appreciate everything you do for Morehead State Athletics.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
That's Jim Wells, and I'm Matt Siegel. We'll have more from the MSU Athletics Golf Outing here at Eagle Trace. Stay tuned to MSUEagles.com.